A warm welcome to Disky Talk with Luyolo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you've been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, I discuss all things Manchester City versus Liverpool as I have a tactical post-match analysis of a mouth-watering encounter which ended 2-2. So, coming up then into this encounter, both teams were obviously looking for the 3 points as it would give them the advantage within the title race. However, at the end of the day, Pep and Klopp share the spoils. However, Manchester City still do remain at the top of the English Premier League. So when you have a look at Manchester City, which are represented by the blue side, they did then start in a 4-3-3. So in goals then, they did start with Edison, and then when you have a look at their back four, they started with JOAO Cancelo. And when you have a look at JOAO Cancelo, this was one of the players that impressed me the most on the day. And usually then, Pep's fullbacks would look to invert. But in this game, what was interesting then was that JOAO Cancelo kept a higher and wider position on the left-hand side. And when you have a look at JOAO Cancelo, then he was also key with regards to making those runs in behind. Whenever then Liverpool did enjoy look to play with the high line, then JOAO Cancelo was making those runs in behind. This is a player then who I think had a very good performance on the day, as there were a couple of those one-on-ones where he won against Salah and very, very comfortable in possession as well. Also, considering then that he did get the assist for the second goal, which is then a ball he picks up in that pocket of space. He then plays a beautiful ball into the back post, and then Jesus finishes. So I think JOAO Cancelo had a very, very good performance on the day. And then they did start with Laporte, John Stones, and then at right back, they did start with Kyle Walker. Moving then into the heart of midfield, they did start with Rodri, and then they started with De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva as well. So when you then have a look at Bernardo Silva, I think Bernardo Silva was key in today's game, because what Bernardo Silva then offered you then was that player who then would often drop deep and look then to facilitate build-ups for this Manchester City side. And when you have a look at Bernardo Silva, he was one of the most impressive players on the day, if not the most impressive, with regards to the ground he covered, in possession, out of possession, and the intensity that he played at. He offered this Manchester City side a lot of quality on the day. And I think that at times within the heart of midfield, he was able to control the game within those deep pockets of space and able then to facilitate the build-up for this Manchester City side. And then when you have a look at Kevin De Bruyne, this is a player then who I think had a very good performance on the day, as he did then get that first goal. So when you have a look at it then, with De Bruyne, I think he started off really well, because when you have a look at within the first couple of minutes, he does play that through ball for Jesus. Jesus plays it across, but Sterling then just wasn't able then to finish. And also then considering the goal that De Bruyne scores. So what happens is it's a foul in the heart of midfield. Bernardo Silva quickly gets it, plays it into De Bruyne. De Bruyne in that pocket of space takes a shot, deflects off Matip, and it was a goal. And when you look at the rest of the game, De Bruyne then was key in playing then those penetrative passes in behind. And he then created a lot of opportunities for this Manchester City side. And then when you have a look at it then, they did then start with Phil Foden on the left-hand side, Jesus on the right-hand side, and then Raheem Sterling up front. And what's key then to note then is that with Jesus, he did get that second goal, where then he does creep in behind Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then he finished as well. And then when you have a look at Sterling, this is a player then who I think could have easily on the day had at least a brace, because he did get opportunities and he just couldn't put them away. And even then with that one call then where he doesn't hold his run and then he's judged offside. And when you have a look then at Manchester City, especially then in the first half, I think they did very, very well with regards then to their high press and their intensity as well. So when you have a look at Manchester City without the ball, what they did very well then is that they would go then to a very narrow 4-4-2 with regards then to how they were looking to institute their high block and press this Liverpool side. So that is what you saw a lot of the times. And with this, then, they were looking to match up with regards then to ensuring that Liverpool couldn't play out from the back. And whenever then Fabinho was open then to receive the ball, you did see Bernardo Silva look to push up a lot of the times. And this then saw Liverpool struggle to play out from the back, throughout the game. They just really, really struggled when it came then to this Manchester City press. And when you have a look then at the quality then that Manchester City possessed throughout the game in possession of the ball, how they looked to build up from the back, and how then they were able then to ensure that they kept more ball possession and the quality of passes as well, and how then they were also looking then to penetrate into the final third. And what they did very well as well is that they were able then to play those balls in behind. And whenever then Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, and Bernardo Silva were able then to get in between the lines, they were able then to offer Manchester City that positional superiority, especially then Foden and Kevin De Bruyne, because whenever they ensured that they get in behind that Liverpool midfield, that's when Manchester City would create very good opportunities, and when they got that ball in behind. And then when you look at it then, within the dying seconds, Kevin De Bruyne picks up the ball and he plays a beautiful through ball in behind, and Mahrez then doesn't finish it off. And that was actually a great chance for City to win it at the death, as I do think that on the day City had more quality. And when you also have a look at it, a lot of the times they did adopt a very, very aggressive offensive scheme, because then what you did see is that it would somewhat go at times into sort of a 2-2-6 shape. So in a sense, that's what you would see a lot of the times. And City then were very offensive and very dominant. And then whenever Kyle Walker would then look to give them that cover and offer that presence as the third centre-back, then it would go to their 3-2-5 offensive scheme. So Manchester City were very, very aggressive in this game. And with regards then to their shape within the opposition half, very dynamic, they were very fluid. And on the day, I would say that they created so many chances, they did deserve the 3 points. However, at the end of the day, they couldn't then get those 3 points. The players then that stood out for me with regards to Manchester City then, you're looking at JOAO Cancelo at left back, who I think was very, very good on the day. Bernardo Silva within the heart of midfield, and then Kevin De Bruyne as well. So let's then have a look at Liverpool with regards to the shape that they went with and how then they were looking then to combat. So when you have a look at Liverpool then, they went with a 4-3-3 shape as well. And when you have a look at it then, in goals, they did start with Alisson, a back four of Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back, Matip as the right-sided centre-half, you had Virgil van Dijk as the left-sided centre-half, and then at left-back you had Robertson. And then when you look at Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think this was a very poor performance from a defensive perspective and in possession of the ball as well, because this is a player then who lost the ball so many times, and he just didn't offer Liverpool that quality on the day, even though he did have that one good moment where then it led to the equalizer. So what happens then is that he does make that run in behind. Robertson then gets the ball within that pocket of space, plays it in behind. He does lay it off, and then JOTA finishes. That was the only good moment I would say that Trent had in the game. But otherwise, then overall, it was a poor defensive display from Trent Alexander-Arnold. And then when you look at this back four in general, I think they struggled with regards to the ball that was played in behind. Every time that ball was played in behind and Liverpool's back line was turned, they really struggled to deal with that ball. And defensively on the day, I think in possession and out of possession, I think Liverpool really struggled because they couldn't play out the back. They struggled then to build momentum with regards to their build-up play. And whenever then that ball was played in behind and those penetrative through balls in between them. So they really struggled from that perspective, and they struggled then to also manage the distances in between the fullbacks and the centre-backs as well. Moving then within the heart of midfield, they did then start with Fabinho, and you had Henderson there, and then you had Alcantara there as well. And when you have a look at this midfield, I think they really struggled, especially considering then how Manchester City looked to press them with regards to the narrow shape and the narrow high block that Manchester City went with. It was very difficult for them to get that ball into midfield. And what City then were looking to do was cut off the passing lanes then into Fabinho, because then once you cut off the passing lanes into Fabinho, it does then force Liverpool to go wide with regards to their build-up or go long. And when you have a look at it then, Liverpool then were very stubborn in that regard to go long. You know, it is only then when they decided in the second half, when they came out from the second half, that's when then the one time that they do go long with Virgil van Dijk, he does then play a ball into Alexander Arnold. It does then drop off. Arnold does find Salah. And then when you have a look at it, it is the ball then that Van Dijk plays into Arnold. He does then find Salah. It is the run then that is made by Mane in behind Kyle Walker. So let's just get it there. So a beautiful ball then by Salah in behind Kyle Walker. Mane finishes with aplomb. So that was them then going 2-2. And I think then they were a lot better with regards to how they looked to start the second half. But overall then, when you have a look at this midfield, I think they really, really struggled to grow into the game. And then when you have a look then at this front three, they did start with Salah off the right-hand side. They started with JOTA up front, and then as the left wing, they then did start with Mane. And when you just have a look at this front three, I think they really struggled to grow in the game. And I would say then that the only good moments that they had was the JOTA goal and the Mane goal as well, as those two served as the equalizers. However, overall then, when you have a look at the game, I just think that City had more qualitative superiority in each and every single third. They were very dominant. They played at a high intensity, and Liverpool then really struggled to grow into the game. They really struggled then to really find that momentum with regards to their build-up play. And also then when you have a look at Manchester City, what they did very well a lot of the times within the heart of midfield, how then they were looking then to overload. So sometimes then when they did go into that offensive scheme, you did see a box midfield. And when you saw that box midfield, that offered that numerical superiority then within the heart of midfield, because it became a 4 versus 3, where then you did have De Bruyne, you had Foden, you had Bernardo, and then you had Rodri against the 3. And they really struggled. And this Manchester City side then were able then to control the midfield, and they played at a really, really high intensity. However, at the end of the day then, it is Manchester City 2, Liverpool 2, as they do share the spoils. And when you have a look at the English Premier League table, Manchester City still are number 1, and they are then in pole position to go on and win the title. Would I say this game was a title decider? No, I wouldn't say so, because there still is a couple of games still to be played. But it does then put Manchester City in a very, very good advantage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Diski Talk with Luyolo. Signing out.